Wake up with whole health connections. Wake up with whole health connections. He'll be your best friend, your ride or die. He's gonna show you how to fly. Wake up with whole health connections.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to this solo edition of the Whole Health with Rob Carney Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Carney. So these episodes I'm going to be doing by myself in the Solocast format are going to be specific on one topic. So they're going to be brief and going to keep it simple. And the intention behind this is that I know oftentimes it can feel overwhelming to dive into a full conversation, whether that's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. So I want to really bring you some quick value, some quick content that allows you to, learn something new or remind yourself of something you may already know in a very quick, concise format, practical, tangible, tactical. So that being said, sometimes we have a short drive. We just want to listen to something quick. We don't want to get involved with something deep. So here is the first one. And the first topic we're going to dive into is breathing. So on the topic of breathing, as many of you know, in the CHEK system, we look at the 6 foundation principles: moving, thinking, breathing, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. So our breath, as we are probably aware of, is arguably the most important resource in our life. The oxygen that we're taking, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, is what's keeping us alive. We can go weeks without food. We can go, 10 days or however long they say without water. We can only go a few minutes without breathing. So with that noted, breathing is probably pretty important. And so if we can learn to optimize our breathing, we can optimize just about every other aspect of our life. So as of right now, I'm in the middle of completing my XBT performance breathing certification. So, I've done a lot of studies on breathing and practicing breath work myself. But, some of the stuff I'm going to be sharing on this one is going to be a little bit of the numbers, as many of you know. I don't tend to get too scientific because I think that can be a little overwhelming. It's hard to find reputable sources, but some of these numbers are from a source I trust. So I'm going to bring some of those to you right now. So when we're looking at breathing, the average person is breathing, 10 to 14 breath cycles. So what is a breath cycle? A breath cycle is basically an inhalation and an exhalation. So when that cycle is completed, that is one breath cycle. So you breathe in and then you breathe out. That's one breath cycle. So the average person is doing about 10 to 14 breath cycles per minute. So average, as we know, with the average health, the average body weight, the average whatever standards we're looking at by the average American, is usually not a good place to be. We don't really want to be average because most people that are average are extremely unhealthy in this current state of the world. So, a better target, what they're saying here is, maybe 4 to 8 breath cycles. So what does that mean? It means that we're breathing slower. It means that we're breathing more deeply, more fully. And usually when we're breathing slower, fuller, more deeply, it means that we're in more of a parasympathetic state. So parasympathetic state is that rest and digest mode. So we have 2 branches of the sympathetic nervous system. So we have the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. So basically what we're looking at here is sympathetic being fight or flight. That's that, charged up, ready to go mode. And we have the parasympathetic, which is chilling, relaxed, feeling good. So if the average person is taking 10 to 14 breath cycles per minute, that's about 14,400 to 20,000 breaths per day. It's a lot of freaking breathing. So a lot of people are also over breathing, and that oftentimes comes shallowly through the mouth into the chest. And some of these people that are really over breathing are breathing up to 30 breath cycles a minute, which you think that's like a 2-second breath. It's like 1 second in, 1 second out. That's a lot of freaking breathing. So that's like 40,000 or more breaths per day. So when we're looking at breathing, just kind of want to break down the structure of the breath. Well, we've got some of these background numbers here. So we want to look at the 4 corners of the breath. So, we look at inhalation, I like to think of it as like a box. So inhalation, hold. Then we got exhalation, hold. And that's the cycle that will go around. So we breathe in. There's a slight pause, maybe a longer pause, depending if you're doing a specific breathwork style. Then there's an exhalation. Then there's a pause in between the exhalation. So it's not just, not hyperventilating. Much inhale, exhale rapidly. We're breathing in, holding for a moment, letting go, pausing for a moment. So those are some things that I think are very helpful to look at. So the anatomy of the breath. So again, the four corners. We're inhaling. We have an inhale, hold. We have an exhale. We have an exhale, hold. So when we are, like I said earlier, elongating our breath, specifically our exhales, that's going to lead to more parasympathetic activation. So if we're breathing in, slowly exhaling, lengthening the exhale. You may notice if you just do a couple of those deep breaths with some longer exhales, you may feel that energetic shift really quickly. And I remember back in the day, this is probably 6-7 years ago, when I was studying or teaching meditation classes and really studying on mindfulness and meditation and breathing. I remember seeing somewhere that just 3 deep intentional belly breaths can lower cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone, by up to 85%. Now, that number may have changed in the past 6 or 7 years since I originally came across that, but the idea is even if it's 60%, or whatever number we're pulling out here, that's a significant decrease in our stress hormones. And in a current state of our being where we're bombarded by stressors all the time, chronic stress, electromagnetic frequencies, poisons in our food, heavy metals in our water, pesticides, antibiotics, the stress of merely being a human, technology, staring narrowly at a screen all day, being so connected. Even things like exercise, exercise is a stressor on the body, and that's an acute stressor. But if you add that on top of someone who's already in a sympathetic state, that can cause some harm there. So we want to be very mindful of that. And that's a whole nother topic on movement that we'll get into another episode. But the point being is that we're constantly under stress. So the more opportunities we can take to use our breath to ground ourselves into that parasympathetic state, we're going to be going about our life in a whole much more grounded, intentional, and calm state. That will help with anxiety. That will help with depression. That will help with, any sort of psychological challenge that is inhibiting us from living our life, most of which are based around stress or a stressor. So when we think about this, the breath, now let's get ourselves physically into this posture. We know about power postures. We get into this, Superman. We feel powered up. We feel hyped up. What if we lay on our back, savasana in yoga, corpse pose, just laying there. We're laying down, maybe in the fetal position, hugging your knees in at the end. So if we're looking at different positions, flexion-based positions are often great for stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. So flexion-based, what does that mean? Basically, any sort of bending in the body. So you think hugging your knees into you while you're laying on your back, kind of that, curled up in a ball position, the fetal position. These are all helping to ground us. Why is it that you see a child kind of curl up into a ball when they're pouting? They're intuitively grounding themselves. Why is it when we feel unsafe, we go into the fetal position? Our bodies are very intuitive. So we look at the nature of things. What's the easiest pattern, the easiest position to breathe deeply in? Lying on your back, usually knees up, feet flat on the ground. These are parasympathetic activating areas. So if we can recognize that, how can we incorporate more of those positions when we're feeling incredibly stressed? And then the other side, like I said, with the Superman pose, we're in that extension based. What are we doing? We're overhead pressing. That's an extension. What are we doing? We're bench pressing. We're extending. What are we doing? We're deadlifting. We're extending. Pull-ups, extending. Extension based poses or positions are going to activate that sympathetic nervous system. And that's, again, I don't want to sit here and say the sympathetic nervous system is a bad thing. It is inherently what has gotten us to survive to this point as human beings, but we have adapted through our modern technology and many other factors that this basically the system has gone haywire and it's unadapted to, deal with the stresses of the modern lifestyle. So I wanted to keep this brief. Just to recap, we're breathing tens of thousands of times per day. And we want to really make sure that we are spending most of our time in that parasympathetic state. We don't need to be in fight or flight mode all the time. Because you think of, when it comes to the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, all these different factors, what is that doing to our body? So you think of, the sympathetic response. Here are just some things that are going up that are high in the sympathetic response: heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, respiratory rate, adrenaline, cortisol, perspiration, blood flow to muscles, hearing. So, what all those things have in common? They're great for survival if you're fighting or fleeing. Well, if we can utilize those in the right environments, like let's say sports, we have sports events, we're working out, we want to really utilize that. Yeah, the sympathetic nervous system is a great system to activate, but do we really want all those things in our daily life? Think of heart disease as one of the leading killers. Again, what I just read: heart rate up, blood pressure up, body temperature up. What else? Inflammation is the root cause of just about every modern disease we have. Increasing your respiratory rate, increase adrenaline, cortisol, increase blood flow in muscles. It's sending a lot of heat there. What is inflammation? It's a lot of heat in the body, excessive heat in the body. So if we look at that, now what goes down in that sympathetic state? Digestion, respiratory volume, peripheral vision. Your pupils dilate. You can focus on one target. Again, if you got a tiger coming at you, you don't care what the birds are doing. You don't care what the trees are doing. You focus on your one target. Peripheral vision goes down. That's why these screens, when we stare into a screen, really activates that fight or flight mode, because we're staring narrowly into something. So when you get to the top of a mountain after a hike and you see this grandiose view, it's just like, wow. So what else? Salivary secretion comes down, again with the digestion, and your fine motor skills tend to go down. Maybe people are clumsy. Inherently, I don't think people are inherently clumsy. The times that I find myself being clumsy, breaking things, is when I'm rushing because I'm in a stress state. How can we be more intentional with our breathing? Your breathing is related to posture. As someone who's had a lot of challenges with their neck for much of their life, I'm becoming very aware of the fact that a lot of that is from forward head posture. This dome piece of a head that we have is pretty darn heavy compared to the rest of our body, proportionately. So if our neck is not aligned with our spine, we're not sitting up straight, that's putting a lot of pressure coming forward. And you'll see a lot of times in old people, they have like a hunchback on the top of their neck where muscle has just built up because it's trying to support that forward head posture. And we don't want that. We want to be as erectus and, we want to be as fully erect in our posture as we can. Homo sapiens are designed to be standing up. That's one of our great advantages. So how can we incorporate that posture? And how is our breathing affecting our posture? And how is our posture affecting our breathing? What came first, the chicken or the egg? The breathing affects our posture, and the posture affects our breathing. So if we can help our posture, we can help our breathing. If we can help our breathing, we can help our posture. The two go hand in hand. So anytime you can, practice sitting up straight, breathing in fully, breathing in through the nose, drawing from the belly. This is something we haven't quite touched on. Breathing in through the nose, filling up the belly, using the diaphragm muscles to draw in the breath, not utilizing the neck muscles, not utilizing the chest muscles, the jaw. These are all secondary breathing muscles, which, if we're in the sympathetic nervous system state, that can be helpful. We want to draw in more air in quickly. So if we're breathing, we're talking a lot, probably going to be breathing through the mouth more, as I am right now because I'm talking. But in a normal state, using the nose as the vessel to inhale, but using the diaphragm as the motor, or drawing from the diaphragm. You can have your hand on your chest, one on your belly, and really focus on pushing your belly out as you're inhaling. That's how you're going to know that you're utilizing your muscles properly. If your chest hand is rising up, you're breathing into the chest. So let's focus practicing our breathing, being more intentional and mindful of our breathing, using the diaphragm to draw the breath in. Just do a couple right now. Filling up the belly, then the rib cage, then the chest, and working its way up. We don't have a reverse breathing pattern. So a reverse breathing pattern would be breathing into the chest first. Or, maybe when you're inhaling, your belly's coming in. You want your belly to go out as you're breathing in. And a lot of people come across this and they're not breathing into their belly or really breathing into their chest, because a lot of people have been conditioned, we want to have a flat belly, we want to have toned abs. So that means sucking in your belly at all the time, breathing shallowly into your chest to look like, someone that's really strong. I notice a lot of times this with girls, females, that they've been so conditioned to believe that you had to have a flat stomach to be attractive, which, isn't true. You want to be fully expanding that belly. A lot of times, they feel it's very unflattering to be inhaling and expanding that belly. It's like, oh man, that's not what I've been told is sexy. So if you're listening to this, male or female, I'm going to really invite you to take that full deep belly breath, expand that belly. Even if you look at it and it's like, oh man, I don't want my belly to be extended like that. It's proper breathing. The human bodies that we see on Instagram or a lot of these other, fitness models oftentimes aren't what nature intended per se, to be sucking in that belly and flexed all the time. So put down what you're carrying, take off your armor, embody the change, enjoy the breathing process, take as many opportunities as you can to slow down the breath, increase the length of your exhalations, breathe in through the nose, filling up the belly, utilizing any tips and tricks you can, whether that's putting tape over your mouth. A lot of people do mouth taping to help train the body to breathe out of their nose. But whatever we can do, just keep practicing, keep learning more, because the breath is absolutely essential for every aspect of our life. The way you breathe is how you live, and the way you live is how you breathe. I wish I could remember off the top of my head who said that quote, but it's damn good. So, choose your life by choosing how you breathe. Have the best day ever. Thanks for tuning in to this solo episode. Check out all the links in the description here. Put some of the sponsors to the show, which really helps me keep it going. The more that you can support the show by utilizing the sponsors, and these are all products that I utilize myself on a daily basis. Things I wouldn't be sharing if I didn't use myself. I'd be embarrassed to share something I didn't use myself. So all these things are many of the best superfoods I use, or the red light therapy with BioLight, the Aries Tech chips. And a lot of people are saying, again, coming down to the sympathetic nervous system, the Aries Tech chips, they're grounding that negative EMF energy, that non-native frequencies, which cause the body to go into a slight state of stress. And I've shared recently, when I was doing a lot of driving, just came back from North Carolina, drove there and back, and I can tell when I'm approaching a 5G tower. I feel my sympathetic nervous system just slightly turn on. My heart rate increases a little bit. I start to just feel that slight sympathetic nervous system activation, and look up, sure enough, there's a 5G tower. So just being very aware of how our breath is, and then, reminding myself, using that as an opportunity, not to be a victim and say, oh man, I can't believe this is doing this to my body. It's like, all right, slow the breathing down, get back in that parasympathetic state. So again, thank you for your support. I know I said I was going to wrap this up about 16 times, but I promise this is the end here. So check out the links in the description. If you found this episode to be helpful, please share with a friend. Please like, subscribe. And again, any support you can share with me, I appreciate you. Any topics you want me to dive into, or any guests you'd like me to have on, Give me a holler. Have the best day ever. Peace.